A good late afternoon and thanks for joining us. Sage here. You're watching Kalkine TV live from Sydney. This is the last show of the day, the last trade, and there's no better way to wind down the day than with the latest market close commentary. In today's show, we'll take a look at the overall ASX 200's performance of the day and explore the gainers and the losers. And this will be followed by shares that grabbed the limelight today, such as South 32, Blackmores, Collins Foods and many more. Then I'll share the trending updates from the Asian as well as the global markets. And finally, in the last segment, we'll take a special report on cryptocurrencies. So let's get started. And a lot of significant updates kept the investors engaged today. For instance, the Australian Bureau of Statistics reported that the jobless rate rose to 4.6% in September from 4.5% in August. Australia shed 138,000 jobs last month. There are now more than 110,000 fewer people employed than prior to the start of the COVID-19 crisis in early 2020. In the US, consumer prices rose 5.4% in September from a year ago, matching the highest rate since 2008. The figure is slightly higher than what economists expected. Businesses have been dealing with supply chain disruptions and delays amid rising demand for goods and have warned that will increase costs and crimp their financial results. And even in China, the latest data shows the highest factory gate inflation in almost 26 years. The Producer Price Index, which measures the cost of goods at the factory gate, hit 10.7% as per the National Bureau of Statistics. And coming to the energy markets, the prices of oil, gas and coal have skyrocketed through this year to levels not seen for years, and in coal's case, ever. And now that we have a gist of what's happening across the world, let's get back to our local bourse. And after closing in the red for the first 3 days of the week, the ASX 200 finally closed today, gaining 0.5% and crossing above its 125-day moving average. Over the last 5 days, the index has gained 0.76% and is currently 4.21% off its 52-week high. On the sectoral front, 8 of 11 sectors ended higher. Information technology was the best performing sector, gaining 4.26% and 1.83% for the past 5 days. Let's look at the top gainers and losers of the day. The top performer on the ASX pack was Netwealth Group, up 15.3%. The online fund manager has upgraded its outlook for funds under management following another strong quarterly result. At the second position was Perseus Mining, up 9.3%. Hub24 and WiseTech Global also made it to the top gainers list. Their stock up 8.9% and 7.4% each. Software and services company Megaport closed higher by 6.8% as well. On the flip side, Redbubble was the top laggard today, down 12.5% after the company reported disappointing revenue and earnings for the first quarter. And some of the other top laggards were ASX comprised of energy and insurance companies, the Viva Energy Group, Insurance Australia Group, Whitehaven Coal and Suncorp Group. Let's now shift our focus to the stocks that fetched the investors' attention today. Netwealth Group saw its shares soar by as much as 16% today after the online fund manager upgraded its outlook for funds under management following another strong quarterly result. And Netwealth lifted its guidance for net fund inflows for 2022 from 10 billion Australian dollars to approximately 12.5 billion Australian dollars, thanks to record inflows for the September quarter with net fund inflows of 4 billion Australian dollars. South 32 shares were 6% higher today as investors digested the news that the miner would acquire a 45% stake in the Sierra Gorda copper mine in Chile for an upfront cash consideration of $1.55 billion. The transaction is expected to immediately be earnings accretive. The company is actively reshaping its portfolio for a low-carbon world, and this acquisition is likely to increase its exposure to the commodities important to that transition. And shares of global online marketplace Redbubble tanked by over 13% today. The company reported disappointing revenue and earnings for the first quarter. For instance, the headline sales turnover numbers were down 21% to $142 million. However, Redbubble saw improving performance from July through to September and reiterates the 2022 outlook statements provided in August. And now let's take a small break, but stay tuned with me. I'll be back with more trending market updates. Hi, I'm Sage, and get ready to take the crypto ride with me on Kalkine TV. Watch the crypto buzz every Tuesday and join the excitement at Kalkine TV. From Bitcoins to NFTs to Dogecoin and DeFi, we have updates about everything around these digital currencies. Understand the investing rationale and the risks involved in the space with me, Sage, on Crypto Buzz. Keep watching Kalkine TV. Welcome back. Sage here with the Market Close commentary by Kalkine TV. Let us now take a look at some more of those stocks that grabbed the investors' attention today. And CSL traded up by nearly 2% today. To the comfort of many, the company confirmed that it will complete its 50 million contracted doses by early next year. There was speculation overnight that the business was cutting its production of the AstraZeneca vaccine short, but well, that does not seem to be the case with the biotech giant. It has already made 20 million doses of the vaccine for Australians and those in the Asia Pacific region. And moving on to the next stock that fetched the attention today. Vitamins company Blackmores shares were up by over 1% today after the release of a shareholders' letter. The board has chosen to include some details of its strained past relationship with former executive chairman and major shareholder Marcus Blackmore. In its AGM voting materials, the Blackmores board tells investors that further disclosure to shareholders about Mr. Blackmore's departure from the board is necessary. While not disclosing the specifics, the company said there was a difference of views between the board and Blackmore. Adore Beauty Group's shares rose by nearly 2% after the online beauty retailer reported today that its revenue for the first quarter of fiscal 2021 has jumped 25% to reach 63.8 million Australian dollars. The company of active shoppers at the business also continued to grow, gaining 24% to 874,000. And Virtus Health has been on the receiving end of some biting criticism from the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, or ACCC. The consumer watchdog is seeking an urgent injunction to stop Virtus from sealing its purchase of the Adora IVF business from Helios, as it has not been able to review the competition implications for the IVF sector. And Virtus shares were marginally up today. Collins Foods continues to grab the headlines ever since its franchise agreement with KFC owner Yum Brands. And the company told investors this morning that it had struck a deal with the second largest KFC franchise in the Netherlands to buy the sites for 16 million Australian dollars. And this marks another exciting step forward for Collins Foods' European growth strategy. Shares traded up by nearly 1% today. And now that we know what the stance is back home, let's move on to our next segment and understand the Asian and global market performance. Most Asian stocks rose today owing to an advancement in the US equity futures as the Wall Street snapped a 3-day losing streak. Equities advanced in Japan with the Topix index climbed 0.5%. In South Korea, Kospi added 1.2%. However, they fluctuated in China, where data showed the highest factory gate inflation in almost 26 years. Hong Kong markets remained shut for a holiday, and beyond Asia, investors reviewed earnings and inflation data. The latest update on inflation was mostly taken in stride. Consumer prices rose 5.4% in September from a year ago, matching the highest rate since 2008. Subsequently, the S&P 500 rose 0.3%, the Nasdaq 100 rose 0.8%, while the Dow Jones finished flat. Banks were among the heaviest weights on the market. As sinusoidal trends continue, global markets are struggling to shake off worries that inflation spurred by an energy crunch and pandemic-related supply chain snarls will sap company profits and economic expansion. And moreover, the debt crisis at China Evergrande Group continues to simmer. And besides, the International Monetary Fund has warned of the risk of sudden and steep declines in global equity prices. And we've now reached the last segment of the show. Let's take a quick look over the buzzing crypto markets performance.
Hi there, James Preston for Kalkine TV. Are you into gaming and virtual reality? Does AI and the endless possibilities it entails capture your interest? Or are you constantly trawling through the web to try and discover the latest updates and innovations in the tech space? Well, let us do the work for you. From the latest product launches to shocking affairs on the World Wide Web, exclusive interviews and information about the top companies like Apple and Google to brand new tech startups vying for your attention. Kalkine's Tech Beat has the latest in what matters in the world of technology. Join me every single Thursday on the Tech Beat, exclusive to Kalkine TV.
Welcome back after the break, and thank you for joining us. On the last trade, we were just about to take a look over the buzzing crypto markets performance. And in the world of cryptocurrencies, it seems like Bitcoin is recovering faster than equities as buyers remain active. The world's largest cryptocurrency has resumed its rally, taking the largest token above 58,000 US dollars. The recovery in cryptocurrencies over the past week has decoupled from equity markets. And besides, considering the decline in miner outflows, which tends to be a bullish price indicator, some experts suggest that despite China's crypto ban, it seems miners, including those who were in China, are holding the digital currency in mining wallets. And before we call it a day, here's some food for thought. It is yet to be seen if, over the long term, Bitcoin's drawdowns will be more severe than for equities, and as the cryptocurrency's higher volatility can accelerate price moves. And hope you enjoyed the report. That's a wrap, folks. And we will be back tomorrow live from Sydney at 9:30 in the morning with our first report on the pre-market scenario to prepare you for your trading day. Till then, take care and stay safe and dry. Sage signing off.